All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our class on working with buyers. My name is Robert. Thank you so much for joining us. Guys, we have an excellent course for you today. We have the entire process that we take as realtors when we're working with a buyer. We're going to go through, scheduling a showing on a property and getting that buyer broker agreement signed from your buyer. We're going to then go over the offering process, how to submit an offer to the listing agent once your client likes the property. We are going to go over the inspection. We're going to go over, when the appraisal takes place, and we're going to go over all the way to closing. So it's almost like, steps to a closing from zero to finish, but it's not really. We're just going to go over working with the buyer. All right. If you have any questions, please feel free, ask questions. This class is for you. It's interactive. You guys can unmute yourself, ask questions. And as you notice, I am recording our class and you'll be able to find it inside of my YouTube channel. All right, guys. So I am inside of our Miami Realtors resource page. Of course, we are going to go ahead and just begin inside of the MLS matrix because when you are working with the buyer, obviously the buyer is going to either feed you some properties they found on Zillow on their own, or you're going to create a search for them. All right. Don't get offended when buyers send you properties. That means they're doing their work. They pretty much know where they want to buy. And if they start sending you properties from Zillow, basically go to the MLS and look at properties that they're sending you and schedule showings. All right. Otherwise, you guys, if you have a buyer who wants you to do the full job, right, that you're gonna go ahead and start sending them properties, then you're gonna go ahead and create a search. So I'm going to begin this particular class just with a quick MLS search of properties in Coral Gables, for example. So I'm going to come over here, search RE1, RE2, and I'm going to go ahead and hit single family home. And we're going to go to Coral Gables, like I mentioned. And let's say my buyer is interested in properties in Coral Gables between, say, no more than $2 million, no more than $2 million, and they're looking for a swimming pool, right? So we found some results, right? And now we email this to our buyers, and our buyers say, hey, listen, Robert, I'd like to go see this property. And let's say it's this one here, Mercado Avenue, right? And they like to go see this property. It's Mercado Avenue. You're going to go ahead and come down here and you're going to go and click on showing time and you're going to schedule a showing. Now it says here 24-hour notice, appointment only, call listing agent. So yes, you can call the listing agent if you like, or you can click on showing time. Once you click on showing time, if this property is activated on showing time, which it is, you'll see here it says appointment required, wait for confirmation. You guys want to click on schedule a single showing, and you'll see that it's available to show tomorrow between the hours of 9 a.m. and I want to say 10:45 a.m. And then after 3 p.m., it's also available, all, I guess all the way until the evening hours. And then it is available to show on Saturday and Sunday. These blocked off right here, these in black, that means it's not available to show during that time. So basically, you want to go ahead and click on, say, 10 a.m. tomorrow, and you want to schedule the showing. Now, when I go through this process, I also follow up with a phone call, right? Showing time is going to notify the listing agent with a phone call and an email that a new request to show the property has been submitted. But I don't, I'm not going to wait for them to receive the notification. I will follow up with a phone call. So I will call Rigoberto in this case, and I will say, hey, listen, Rigoberto, I have a client who's interested in seeing your property and I would like to confirm this appointment. All right, so follow up with a phone call, a text message, somehow, some way, get your confirmation. All right, so now that you have it confirmed, now you get to go see the property. But before we get to see the property, what do we need first? As a buyer agent, what do we need first before we show our first property to our client? Anyone? You guys know?
Showing agreement.
You can get a showing agreement for one property, or you can go ahead and get a buyer broker agreement.
Agreement. Okay.
So if this is a client of yours, like a real buyer who's going to work with you in the long run, then I recommend that you get a buyer broker agreement. If this client is a lead, someone at a lead that you got from either us or you got from the internet, and you're going to meet them for the first time, then I recommend that you just get a showing agreement. All right. So both are found inside of Form Simplicity. Form Simplicity is this program that you see here. We're going to go ahead and open it up. And now you are inside of Form Simplicity. You can find the buyer broker agreement and the showing agreement inside of our packages. We have packages that are available for you, but you can also find them in the blank forms. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the blank forms. And we'll show you right here that you have your forms library and you also have your forms packages. So as I mentioned, you can actually find it inside of our buyer package, both forms, the showing agreement and the buyer broker agreement. So when you open the buyer package, you will see the very first form in here is the exclusive buyer broker agreement transaction broker. That is the one you'll need if you're going to sign your buyer to a long-term agreement to work with them to find them a house. If you're only going to go see one property because this is someone you don't know and you're going to meet them for the first time, say, hey, listen, in order for me to show you this house, I do need a showing agreement, and here it is. You can go ahead and fill that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start by creating a transaction with these two agreements, right? We're going to come here. We're going to click on create a transaction from this package. And I'm going to call this Michael Jordan, right? We're going to go ahead and, there's no street address right now. Okay, so there's no street address right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and call this Michael. Jordan is my client, right? And same thing for the transaction name, Michael Jordan, and I'm gonna go with new buyer. All right, new buyer. And then we're gonna go ahead and property type is gonna be a residential, and this is gonna be a purchase, and we're gonna go ahead and click on new transaction. All right, I created a transaction just so I can have the buyer broker agreement or the showing agreement already in place. All right. Now, of course, when you go see the property and your client likes the property and you want to create a transaction for this property, then you would actually click on Form Simplicity right here and you will begin a transaction from scratch right here by clicking on Form Simplicity. But for now, I want to go ahead and just give you a quick example on how to fill out both the showing agreement and the buyer broker agreement. All right, so if you need a showing agreement for that one property, you're going to go ahead and click on showing agreement. We're going to open it up and let's take a look. Consumer is Michael Jordan, right? So you're going to go ahead and erase this here and you're going to put in here the name of your buyer. And then this agreement is between, so let's say we're requesting to see the property tomorrow, and we're gonna go between tomorrow and let's say Monday. All right. So Monday, the 10th of November. All right. And then this is Elite Ocean View Realty. All right, is gonna provide the services. And you're going to put in the property address right here. This agreement applies to the following properties. It could be one property, or let's say tomorrow you're going to go see three properties with your client. So you're going to go ahead and put in here the addresses to all three properties. All right. So I'm just going to put in 123 Main Street. Broker obligation, consumer obligation, compensation.
Station.
All right. So what is compensation? Compensation is what you stand to make on this transaction if you are able to submit an offer and ultimately close on the deal. Now, in our package, the showing agreement, we've pre-filled for you 4%. That's a bit aggressive, right? Asking your buyer for 4%. So if you think that that's not really going to fly, then change it up. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and change it up. I want to put 3%. And that means that if we're able to enter into a contract on this property at 123 Main Street, and say the seller is going to pay 2.5% compensation, then your buyer only owes you half a percentage point at closing. If the seller is contributing 2% compensation to the buyer broker, then you will collect 1% from your buyer. If, of course, the seller is not contributing any compensation whatsoever, then your buyer will have to pay you 3% at closing. All right. You're always going to keep the 495 here because that is the transaction fee that we charge. And if you want to charge a retainer fee, go ahead and charge it. If you don't, just go ahead and erase it. There's no retainer fee there. Any additional terms that you like, and then go ahead and have it signed. You're going to sign it as the authorized associate broker, and your consumer, Michael Jordan, will sign it here. This is the showing agreement that you'll need in place in order to start showing properties for just the properties that you put on the agreement itself. Okay. Now, if you're going to sign your buyer to a long-term agreement where you're going to show them multiple properties throughout many different days, then I highly recommend that you go with the exclusive buyer broker agreement transaction broker. All right. So we're going to go ahead and click here and let's learn how to fill out the exclusive buyer broker agreement. Once again, the consumer is Michael Jordan. So let's go ahead and put in here Michael Jordan. All right. And then the brokerage is Elite Ocean View Realty. You can also come over here before our company name and you can fill in your name, right? So you can fill in your name as well. And you can put in either a hyphen or a forward slash, whatever you like. And then let's say I'm going to sign my client, Michael Jordan, to a 6-month agreement beginning today. Today is the 6th of November, and we're going to take it all the way to May 5th. All right, so let's take it all the way to May 5th of next year. And that means that Michael Jordan agrees to work with me exclusively as his buyer agent for a period of 6 months. Okay. Now, what type of property is Michael Jordan interested in? We're going to go ahead and put in residential property, right? Residential property is going to cover everything: single family home, condo, townhome, right? So, any residential property and in what location? Even if Michael Jordan says only Coral Gables, I don't really recommend that you just put Coral Gables. Go ahead and put in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Some agents go as far as just putting in all of Florida. I mean, think about it. You don't want to limit yourself to helping Michael maybe find a house in the Keys or somewhere on the west coast of Florida. So maybe you want to put in all of Florida. But in this case, we're just gonna leave Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. All right, as far as a retainer fee, notice retainer fees are non-refundable, right? So there's no, you cannot apply whatever retainer you collect towards their closing costs. So $1,000 retainer fee is going to be given to you if you ask for it. It's going to be given to you for your services that are going to be performed prior to even closing the transaction. So if you agree to a $1,000 retainer fee, then they are going to give you this $1,000 upfront. You are going to then get paid that $1,000 from our company minus your split. Okay. That money goes to you. It is non-refundable. So if you think that a retainer fee is something that you want to do, go ahead and come up with a retainer fee. We've plugged in $1,000. If you think a retainer fee is going to scare your buyer away, then just go ahead and erase it and do not charge a retainer fee. If your buyer is a friend, family, someone that you know is not going to turn their back on you, then don't charge a retainer fee. All right. When it comes to compensation, once again, it's a bit aggressive, but I want to tell you one of our agents who's in class today was able to put 4% in her buyer broker agreement and a $1,000 retainer fee and got both. All right, so great job. Crystal, who's here on in our training in her last purchase with a buyer, she was able to put in 4%. That means that she made 4% on the sale. I believe that the seller was compensating 2.5%, and the additional 1.5% came from the buyer. She
Yes. Hmm.
Great, that's great. She made more money in compensation than most buyer agents out there in today's market because she left the 4% and the buyer agreed to it. So consider the 4% we put here as something fair, that it is your value. Like, guys, yes, listing agents do a lot of work when it comes to prospecting and coming up with the listing and getting the listing on the market and everything else. But buyer agents will do a lot of work after that because the buyer agent needs to show property. And sometimes you're going to be several weeks, even months showing properties. And then when you find the property, you need to submit the offer, negotiate pricing, set up an inspection, be present at the inspection, negotiate prices, after the inspection, wait for appraisal, make sure the lender is doing their work, make sure the title company has all the paperwork. The buyer agent is doing a lot of work, a lot of responsibility. So value yourself. So if you think 4% is what you're worth on this transaction, then leave 4%. You never know. Maybe the seller is giving 3% compensation and your buyer only has to pay you 1%. All right. So give it a try. So, anyways, change this if you want to change it. Maybe you know that you're okay with 3%, then go ahead and change it to 3% plus the 495. All right, so your buyer broker agreement also comes with a conditional termination and a cancellation fee. If you are not going to charge a retainer fee, however, but you don't want them to have an easy way to cancel off of this agreement, then maybe throw in here a cancellation fee. So while I am not going to charge them anything up front, if they decide to cancel this agreement 2 months into the agreement, then yeah, go ahead and collect the cancellation fee because think about it. Maybe you by then have shown them over 10 or 15 homes and you spent all this gas and mileage and time and all for nothing, right? So decide whether you're going to charge a termination fee of this agreement and then basically come down here and put in any other additional terms, and then again, have everyone sign it. Guys, read the buyer broker agreement. The buyer broker agreement, especially when it comes to cancellation. If the buyer cancels your agreement, if the buyer cancels your agreement, they can immediately sign another agreement with another agent, and you're not protected. See, there's a protection period here of 365 days. We put 365 days. If left blank, the agreement defaults to 30 days. But this agreement and this protection period that protects you from the buyer actually submitting an offer and purchasing a contract that you demonstrated to them, that you showed the property to, but they did it with another agent. If they have a buyer broker agreement with that other agent, then this protection period is null and void. All right, so it's very important to understand that this is why you're going to want to collect at least some type of cancellation, because if you feel your buyer wants to switch agents and go buy a house that you showed them, right? They're probably going to get a buyer broker agreement with that other agent. And if they don't, then yes, you are entitled for 365 days to that full compensation. All right. So we have classes exclusively for that buyer broker agreement. You guys, I have it up on my YouTube channel where we go sentence for sentence, paragraph by paragraph, explaining the buyer broker agreement. But if you want more information, please contact me. I'd be more than happy to walk you through this. Okay. All right. So get this signed. Now you have a buyer broker agreement. Keep it in your files, keep it in your records. You don't have to submit it to us just yet. You will submit the buyer broker agreement and the showing agreement, or both, or one or the other, to us once you are under contract with the property. Okay?
Robert, I have
Yeah.
a question. Does the showing agreement has any protection period? It doesn't, right?
It doesn't because it's just for 1 day, right? I mean, or for the time that you put here. Let's check again. I didn't see it.
Because I think it had it before, but I didn't see it in the new
There's a
form.
retainer, there's a dispute, acknowledgement. That's it. It ends right there.
Oh, okay.
No protection period.
No protection period. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's close this out. Any questions on both of these agreements, guys? This is a rule change that occurred last year in August of last year, where now when we go out with buyers, we need an agreement, just like you need an agreement with a seller. Prior to that, we pretty much were able to go out with buyers and ride around and find properties for them without having to sign them to an agreement. The key is learning how to explain your value, right? So they're not afraid with the compensation you're asking. And then also let them know that about 90% of sellers out there are still compensating buyer brokers. So in reality, they may not need to pay you all of that compensation, the percentage that you put in there. Sometimes they don't have to pay you anything because if all you're asking is for 3% and you get a 3% seller compensation, then the buyer doesn't have to pay you anything. All right. Guys, especially for those of you that are new, buyer agents work a whole lot. All right. You will be doing a lot of work and a lot of stress. So you're worth every single percentage that you put on that agreement. Okay. Don't cut yourself short. All right. So now let's go into Matrix and let's now pretend that we have our buyer interested in this property. Okay. So if our buyer is interested in this property, then you're going to go ahead and click on Form Simplicity right here. Remember, we began the class by scheduling and showing, using showing time, showing the property. Our buyer really likes the property. Now they want to place an offer. So you're going to go ahead and click on Form Simplicity and you're going to prepare an offer. Before you prepare an offer, I want to say before you even begin working with your buyer, make sure they're pre-approved, right? Make sure they are already pre-approved, whether they're working with their own lender or you recommend a lender. Remember, we have a preferred lenders here at Elite Ocean View Realty through Lendy. Lendy is a company that we use, and there are two loan officers that are willing and ready to help you. All right. Please contact me and I will give you their information. So we have our buyer, and our buyer is interested in this property, and it's $1,720,000. They have proof of funds. This is going to be a cash deal. Then then get proof of funds. Like have them send you that they indeed have the money to buy the property in cash. If it's going to be finance conventional, then go ahead and ask for a an approval letter from a bank, right? From a lender. All right, so we have that in place. Now, with confidence, we're going to go ahead and submit an offer. Do not submit an offer without your client having a pre-approval because it could take a while for them to be approved. Okay, it's best that you have them pre-approved before you start shopping. All right. It's like rolling up to a Lamborghini dealer and asking for a test drive. They're probably not going to let you test drive a Lamborghini without showing that you're able to purchase the Lamborghini. All right, so it's the same thing. Don't go shopping for a $2 million house and without demonstrating that you can afford the $2 million house. All right, so here we are in Form Simplicity. All the information from the listing is now part of Form Simplicity. The seller's name. How do we find the seller's name? There are many, many different ways to find the seller's name. Going to go back to Matrix and we're going to click on IMAP. IMAP is this little symbol right there. I'm going to go ahead and right click and open up IMAP. IMAP is public records, and right here we have Osvaldo Soto and Bertilla Soto. All right, it's two owners. I'm not gonna copy and paste, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put in here Osvaldo Soto. We're just gonna put one name, right? Soto. Now let's put both of them and Bertilla Soto. All right. So we have the seller's names. Remember, these are not our clients. That's the listing agent's clients, right? So that's all we're going to put. And we have here the listing agent and where they work, and then the purchase price. So let's go ahead and submit $1,500,000 for this house. All right, so $1.5 million. Our buyer, of course, is Michael Jordan, right? So we're gonna go with Michael Jordan. Let's say it's our buyer and, right, wife Jordan, whatever the wife's name is, right? So if you have multiple buyers, then you're gonna put their names at the top, okay? And then, of course, that's your information, and you're with Elite Ocean View Realty. We're gonna go ahead and click on Save to a Transaction. This is the transaction now for 1535 Mercado Avenue. The transaction name, I normally add right here, same as address, and then I put in here a little hyphen and I put Michael Jordan. All right. So Michael Jordan as the name of my client. Property type, it is a residential property, and transaction type, this is a purchase. All right. Save to new transaction. All right, so we just saved it. Now it's time to add our documents, the ones that we will need. So let's click on Add Forms from the package. You can go through the blank library, but we prefer that you go through here because we have already pre-filled some of the forms for you. So you click on the buyer's package and notice all these forms. Now I want you to uncheck all the forms. You don't need all these forms, right? You don't need all these forms. So I want you to uncheck all the forms. You already have a buyer broker agreement signed with Michael, so you don't need that. Uh, you don't need the showing agreement either. You will need the as is residential contract for sale and purchase. So that is one that you need. We are buying a single family home, so you don't need a condo rider. But if you are buying a condominium, then you will need a condo rider. Okay. If the property is inside an HOA, you will need an HOA community disclosure. This property is not inside an HOA, so we will not select it. This property, I believe, was built before 1978. This is a Coral Gables property. Let's just double check here. All right. Indeed, it was built in 1956. So we will need the lead-based paint disclosure. Remember, this lead-based paint disclosure is needed when a property was built in 1978 or prior to that. Anything over that, 1980, 1990, 1999, anything like that, you don't need a lead-based paint disclosure. All right, so we're gonna need this. I always like to also include an addendum because you may be needing to use addendums in the future. So go ahead and include that right away. Um, Compensation. All right, compensation. By now, you should have asked the seller agent, the listing agent, hey, is the seller compensating any amount to the buyer broker? The seller tells you, the selling agent tells you, yes, Robert, we're compensating 3%. So you will need a compensation agreement. We prefer that you use the one that says sellers, not that one, this one. Seller to buyer's broker. All right, there's the seller to buyer broker, which is an agreement between the seller and us that they will pay us a percentage for bringing the buyer. Then there's the sellers to buyer broker, which is pretty much the same thing. It just means that the seller's broker will pay us. All right. And then you will also need a flood disclosure. It is required to have a flood disclosure signed by both parties. So you will need the flood disclosure. Okay. There's other things down here like contract important deadlines. It's kind of like a checklist that you guys can include. And then we have something really cool that we created a buyer broker agreement collage of why we need to use the buyer broker agreement. So if you need help explaining to your buyer what are the reasons they need to sign a buyer broker agreement, this is a really cool PDF file that we put together, and also an explanation of the buyer broker agreement. So Those are all things that you can add. Let's not add it. We don't need it. We'll keep the important deadlines. All right, click on add to a transaction, save. All right, now that we added it to our transaction, now it's time to obviously have the forms filled. Now, today is not an as is contract for sale and purchase class. I do have a class where I go over all of these documents in full. And that's going to be the as is contract class where I go over this and I go over, everything in its entirety. But I am going to kind of review real quick how to fit it out. All right. So let's go ahead and open up our contracts. All right, so we have everything pre-filled, guys. You see how easy that was? Osvaldo Soto, Bertilla Soto are the owners. Then we have Michael and his wife. And we have the property address with the legal description. What's included in the sale when it comes to personal properties, all appliances, you're going to discuss that with these sellers. And then right here we have our purchase price of $1,500,000. And then right here underneath the purchase price, what is the deposit? So let's go ahead and give a $50,000 deposit, right? 50K in deposit. This deposit is to be submitted to the title company or escrow agent within 3 days. Now, at Elite Ocean View Realty, we have an escrow account only for rentals. If you need to submit the deposit to an escrow account, you're going to submit it to the title company that you are going to use. Now, we here at Elite Ocean View Realty use Marina Title. Okay, so Marina Title is our preferred title company. They work together with us. They're our affiliated title company. You don't have to use our title company, but it would be nice if you did. Of course, they're going to do all the work for you. They're going to make sure that everything gets done correctly on time. They're going to go to bat for you. All right. But if you already have a preferred title company, then use your preferred title company. So it is Marina Title. There's the address of Marina Title. There's the phone number. There is the email address to Marina Title. All right. If you need this information, please contact me. I will give it to you. Additional deposit. Is there any additional deposit that's going to be delivered? Let's go ahead and give another $50,000 in additional deposit within 12 days, within 10 days. Let's go within 10 days. So additional deposit to be delivered within 10 days. So we're looking at $50,000 in initial deposit and $50,000 in additional deposit. Okay. And then right here, financing, let's go with a conventional financing of 80%. So our client is going to finance 80% immediately, all right? Line E, right? Or line 41 is actually line 42 is going to populate the amount due at closing. So 20% of $1.5 million is $300,000. $50,000 initially, another $50,000 in additional, and then another $200,000 at closing. This excludes closing costs. Does not include closing costs. This is only for the loan. All right. So our client is putting $300,000 down payment and financing $1.2 million. All right. If your buyer's paying cash, then you leave this percentage here at zero. And then right here, you're going to put in $1,400,000, right? By leaving it at zero, okay, now you're telling the system that we are going cash, right? See that? $1,400,000. But if we put it at 20 or 10 or 15, whatever, it's going to go ahead and calculate. All right. Sorry. It's not 20% financing, it's 80% financing. There you go. Any questions with this? Pretty simple, right? All right. Time for acceptance. So let's say we're gonna place the offer today. Today is Thursday, November 6th. Let's make this offer valid until the 10th of November, so until Monday. You know, You guys can decide whether you want an immediate response, a 1 day expiration, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day expiration. When should you expect a response for your offer? And then closing date. You can either go with a calendar date or you can say honor before 30 days, 45 days, whatever you like. So I like to do uh, on or before 45 days, right? So it gives me plenty of time to do the closing, right? It gives the lenders plenty of time to submit a loan approval, to have the appraisal done and everything else. So on or before 45 days, okay? You can put in a calendar date if you like. All right, financing. We are financing. If this is a cash transaction, you check letter A. If this is a financing transaction, you check letter B. All right, so this contract is contingent upon 30-day loan approval, right? In most cases, every lender should deliver a loan approval within 30 days. This is why it's extremely important to have your buyer already pre-approved. Because if you need to start shopping around for lenders after submitting your contract, then you're going to run into some problems, right? So have your buyer already pre-approved, so there's no issues getting a loan approval within a 30-day period. You can definitely extend a loan approval period, but the seller may not like that. All right. Conventional loan, FHA loan, or other loan. All right, you can leave all these things blank, but we went ahead and filled it out for you, 30-year term. But if let's say your buyers doing a 15-year term on their loan, then they can put 15 years here. And then again, uh, buyer financing. The application for financing must be made within 5 days from the effective date. All right, so this is another reason why you should have your buyer already pre-approved. So the loan application is done quickly within the first 5 days. The other part of the contract I'd like for you to pay attention to is going to be the inspection period. Again, as I mentioned, today's not a contracts class, so forgive me for going a little fast. But I'm just going to point out some of the important parts of our contract and that you pay attention to. So right here we have the inspection period. This is in page number 5 and it's paragraph number 12. So the buyer shall have, we pre-filled here 10 days. You can put 7 days, 10 days. If you leave it blank, it's going to default to 15 days. The buyer has 10 days to perform an inspection on the property. All right. Once the inspection is performed, then you have the full amount of days here to negotiate any seller credits if needed. Uh, and get the deal to move forward. All right. So during those 10 days, your buyer has the right to cancel the contract with no particular reasons given and receive a full refund of their deposit. All right. So this protection period, this inspection protection period, the buyer pretty much determines if they want to move forward with the transaction or cancel. All right. But you need enough time, guys. You need enough time to schedule the inspection, have the inspection performed, take a look at the results, consider whether they want to move forward or not, or if they're going to ask for credits. Maybe the plumbing or the AC is broken and you need to ask for credits. You need time in order to ask for those credits. So give yourself some time. Don't put 7 days, put 10 days. Okay. All right. All the way down, all the way down, all the way down. We're going to go ahead and visit this page that you see right here. All right. With this contract, we are going to submit the lead-based paint disclosure. And with this contract, we're going to go ahead and submit an appraisal contingency. All right. I didn't add it to the transaction, but let's pretend that we did. We're going to submit an appraisal contingency. You have the compensation agreement, it's fine. They're going to provide you a seller's disclosure, and then we have the flood disclosure. All right, so everything is checked. Uh, the buyer will pay $495 transaction broker fee at closing to Elite Ocean View Realty. If you are going to cover that cost, then feel free to remove this line from the contract if you want to. If you're obviously going to have the buyer pay for it, then leave it there. Any other additional terms that you can think of that is not part of the contract itself, go ahead and fit it in here. Additional terms could be that you and the seller agree that the seller is going to contribute $10,000 at closing. So you can come over here and put number three, right? Come over here, put number three, and seller to contribute $10,000 to buyer at closing. This could be done in the initial contract or this could be done inside of an addendum. All right. Uh, Seller to replace AC, right? Like seller to replace AC and water heater prior to closing. These are additional terms, right? These are all additional terms. Okay. And then, of course, have your buyer sign this, and you're going to go ahead and submit it over to the listing agent as an offer. Okay. You're going to submit it as an offer. You don't have to submit anything else yet. You don't have to submit the flood disclosure. You don't have to submit the lead-based paint disclosure. All these other forms could come later, right? But you're going to go ahead and submit the as-is contract. Now, let me go ahead and show you the compensation agreement. That's another one. Sorry. You want to submit the as-is contract and the compensation agreement. All right. You want to make sure that they agree firsthand to pay you that compensation. All right. You want to have it in writing. So here's your compensation agreement. Buyer's broker is Elite Ocean View Realty. Seller. Those are the sellers right there. Okay. And then down here, you have the property address and the seller's broker. All right. This is going to be for a term of 45 days. Man, Form Simplicity is lagging behind. I'm not able to type yet. But this is going to be for a term of 45 days. There you go. Okay. And then the buyer broker compensation, they told you that they're going to pay you 3%. So you're going to change this over here to 3% and simply come down here. You will sign it as the authorized sales associate for the buyer broker, and then the seller needs to sign this as well. This is in writing that the seller will compensate our brokerage 3% at closing. So you're going to submit both of those now. Congratulations, you guys are under contract, right? You're under contract and it's time for you to get an inspection done. So hopefully you guys have a list of inspectors that you prefer. If you don't, you guys can always go to miamirealtors.com, click on affiliates, and then click right here where it says Miami Affiliate Directory. Okay, and then go look for home inspection companies. There's plenty for you to choose from. And right there, home inspection and engineering. Um, These are some of the top level inspection companies at the Association of Realtors. We have Allied Building Inspection Services down here in Miami-Dade County. TrueView Inspections, one of my preferred ones. I love those people. We have House Masters, Max Home Inspections, and so many others. Guys, go ahead and soon as you're under contract, start making phone calls and setting up an inspection. Remember, we have 10 days, right? We have 10 days. In most cases, these inspectors can go out the next day. All right, they can go out there to the property and the next day they have many home inspectors working out there in the field. So it shouldn't be a problem getting them. The buyer pays for the inspection out of pocket. So the inspections normally run between $400 and $600. The buyer is going to pay for the inspection, okay, out of pocket. You should be there as the buyer agent. You should be there with your buyer. The inspection normally takes between 1 and 2 hours. It's rare when it goes over 2 hours, but if the house is really, really, really large, then maybe it'll take for more than that. A condo inspection could take up to 1 hour. Okay. All right, so now you have your inspection, everything goes through, then the rest is really up to the lender, right? The lender needs to go through the process of the appraisal. They need to schedule an appraisal. The appraiser is going to go out there. Again, I recommend that you go to the property. Your buyer doesn't have to go, but that you go to the property during the appraisal and you meet the appraiser and perhaps maybe help him a little bit with some comps. All right. Don't interfere in the appraisal's job. However, give him some tips on the comparables in the area, making sure that they're fully aware that the property is going to appraise. Okay. So the lender's going to order appraisal. The lender's going to pretty much clear this property and this sale to close. All right. If for some reason we need to ask for an extension, right? We need to ask for an extension, then this is when you're going to need the addendum to contract. This is why I added an addendum to contract. Uh, um, I added this addendum to contract at the beginning because you're going to need it, right? So we're going to come here, we're going to open it up. And you see right here, addendum. This will be addendum number one, right? Addendum number one, two, three, depends on how many addendums you do. So addendum number one. And the contract date was today. Let's say that we got it signed today, November 6th. Okay. And then right here in the blank space, you're going to write that we are asking for an extension. Why? Because the lenders are not ready, right? The lenders are not ready. So let's just say seller, let's go one, and then seller and buyer agree to extend the loan approval period, um, you know, until December. Make believe that we're somewhere in December already, right? It's weird for me to write this now. December 15th, right? Let's say it's right now it's December, let's say today's date was December 8th, right? And we foresee that the loan approval period is going to expire on December 10th. Then we want to go ahead and extend it until December 15th. Then you put that there. Also, if you need to extend the closing date, it's pretty much the same. You're just going to go ahead and put in here, seller and buyer agree. Seller and buyer agree to extend closing date, right? To extend closing date until December 15th. And then you guys are going to go ahead and always end your addendum like this. All other terms and conditions, all other terms and conditions of this contract remain the same. All right. And go ahead and save it, have your buyer sign it, send it over to the listing agent so the seller can sign it. You may need to explain to them what's going on. They're having difficulty, they're don't use that word, having difficulty approving the loan, but they're getting close to loan approval, but they just ask for 5 more days. Usually the first extension is always expected. Not everything is going to be perfect and closing on time. So they should be able to grant you that first extension. Once you start sending multiple extensions, it can get a little bit more complicated. All right, guys, your buyer, as long as you're submitting these extensions, your buyer is not risking their deposit. Okay, your buyer's not risking their deposit. If the loan approval period of 30 days comes and goes and you never extended it and you still don't have an approval, you are now risking your deposit. Now, if the lender comes back with a denial, right? We cannot approve the buyer for this loan, then your buyer's deposit goes back to the buyer, right? So this is always going to be contingent on the loan approval, right? If the appraisal comes back and you have an appraisal contingency and the appraisal comes back too low, then your buyer can back out and receive their full refund of the deposit. All right. Guys, as far as the closing, we all want to close on time, but make sure that you draft an addendum to extend the closing a couple days before. If you foresee that we're not ready to close, the bank has not cleared to close, that means the title company doesn't have clear to close. We want to make sure that we extend the closing date a few days before. So we're not in in default per se. Okay. So we want to go ahead and extend that. So what happens in between all of this? What's happening? Well, the title company is going to get a title commitment. You're going to see the title commitment come through. The title company is going to perform a lien search, right? They're going to perform a lien search. You're going to see the lien search comes through. If there is by any chance any open permits or any liens on the property, it needs to be taken care of right away, right? Permits must be closed. It is part of the contract that all permits and violations are to be taken care of prior to closing. All right. So of course, if you represent the buyer, that means the seller needs to take care of all this. So they need to get to it, right? What else? What else? The title company will order a survey, right? They will order a survey. Usually the survey can go get performed right away, or it'll be performed on the last week prior to closing. It all depends on the title company and when they order a survey. Also, the survey is a land survey. They do not need access to the interior of the house. They basically are going to make sure that the property lines are clean, right? What else? What else? What else? Okay, your buyer needs to secure property insurance. So your buyer needs to be talking to several insurance brokerages and securing homeowners insurance because we are financing. If your buyer is paying cash, then it really is up to them whether they're going to secure home insurance or not. So we need to be making phone calls, not we, your buyer needs to be making phone calls to several insurance companies and securing an insurance. Once an insurance quote has been agreed to, then that insurance brokerage will produce a binder and they're going to send the binder over to the lender. The lender needs to make sure, right? The lender needs to make sure that the house already is insured by the buyer in order to proceed with the clear to close. You cannot get a clear to close if the insurance company has not or the buyer has not secured an insurance company to insure the home. Okay. So now that we have all of this done, then in most cases the lender will now give a clear to close. Clear to close basically means the package is done. All right, they're gonna go ahead and deliver the package over to the title company. The title company is gonna prepare all the numbers and they're gonna prepare their own package, and then they're gonna send the buyer and seller agent and the buyer and seller themselves, they're going to send them a preliminary closing statement, right? This is the preliminary ULTA closing statement. You, as the buyer agent, you're going to review the ULTA and you're going to make sure that all the numbers seem correct, that your buyer isn't paying too much in fees, or there's no hidden fees in there. If there's any questions, please, you know more than your buyer. Go ahead and talk to the title company and ask what these fees are. And of course, in the Alta, you want to make sure that your compensation is correct, the one that's being paid to Elite Ocean View Realty. You also want to make sure that the $495 transaction fee is also being deducted from the buyer in order to pay for the transaction fee. Guys, once you review all of that, you're ready for closing, right? The title company will schedule a closing, the closing date. the seller will sign, the buyer will sign, and you guys are now closed. And you will send all of the paperwork, from contract to addendums to disclosures to the Alta closing statement. You'll send all of that to our transaction coordinator, and you'll send me a copy. All right. I have a class that is steps to a closing where we go over all of that. Right. Today is just working with buyers. I just wanted you to have an idea of what it takes when you're working with a buyer in order to find them a property and ultimately get to a closing. So if you need to review the steps to a closing, I have it inside of my YouTube channel. When you guys log into my YouTube channel, I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick here. When you log into my YouTube channel, I have, there you go, the closing procedures with Elite Ocean View Realty. All right. This is 46 minutes long. I pretty much went over what it takes to close, the Alta statement and all that stuff. So it's all in here. All right. So does anyone have any questions? Because I think that we kind of reached the end of our class when it comes to working with a buyer. You want to make sure that you help your buyer, that you provide 1000% customer service, that you use patience because your patience will be tested, right? Your patience is going to be tested, but give the best customer service possible, and everything will turn out fine. All right. Any questions? No questions, guys? Adolfo, Crystal, Donna, Lorena.
No, no questions, Robert.
All right, a lot to take in, right? It was a lot to take in.
Yes, it is.
All right, well, listen, that's
A
just
lot to
preparation.
process.
Yes, a lot to process. And I will upload this class right now to my YouTube channel. Just give me a few minutes after we're done. It is a lot to take in, and hopefully you guys will be using this process very, very soon. All right. All right, folks, thank you so much for joining for today's class. Our next class is Monday with our broker, Teo, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then my classes are next Tuesday and Thursday at 10. So I'll see you guys. Have a great day and have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye now.